Teresa Clark, I mean, for those that know you, they'll know that you have a great pedigree for the sport. I mean, just tell us, for those that wouldn't be familiar with yourself and your family, where did it all begin? I mean, why point-to-pointing and why horses?
Well, horses basically have been in my blood. They were in my grandparents, had horses and pointers. My mum was a show jumper. My dad hunted, great horseman. And then he went on to be a national hunt trainer, having started off with point-to-pointers. Obviously my brother's gone on to train national hunt with a lot of success, and I decided, having worked at Richard Barber's, that I would like to point-to-point train.
And your brother being Anthony Hullenball, who now has a really successful yard in Mosterton. And I mean, we must just touch upon as well, I mean, your father, you say he went on to train national hunt, but he was associated, Teresa, with a very, very good horse.
Yeah, he trained the Dickler to win 3 point-to-points up in Oxfordshire. It was a very difficult horse. It was untrainable. Horse was sent to him basically as a last resort. And he was a real horseman with that horse, and he had it every summer to do all its pre-training before it went into National Hunt Yard, where it went on and won the Gold Cup.
A very special horse indeed, the Dickler, and Anthony now doing such great things as well. You mentioned the time at Richard Barber's, and I think anybody that has spent time with Richard Barber is always going to come away having learnt something. And if that's not the case, they've obviously been going around with their eyes shut. You spent a good few years there, a good few informative years. I mean, working for such a great name in point-to-pointing must have stood you in such great stead for your own training career.
Richard, I owe a lot to him. He was a fantastic boss. He taught me a hell of a lot about getting horses fit. And I just owe him everything. For what I now do, he taught me everything, really.
And then from there, Teresa, obviously the natural progression, as you say, you'd ridden in point-to-points, you'd always been associated with the point-to-pointers. You then decided to train, and from that day of starting, you've now trained 13 winners. But just tell us, where did the training begin? How did it start? With how many horses? And who was the first of those successes?
Well, obviously I worked for Richard Barber, and after I had my second child, it was sort of evident it was going to be quite difficult to commute from the Quantocks with 2 children. So really my partner Jeremy sort of suggested, why don't you have a pointer, you know, we'll have a little syndicate together and start. And that's what I did. So I started with Barthwick Scano, which we got through Dave Pye. Jerry Supple is our sort of bloodstock agent on that side. And that is where it started, with Barthwick Scano, and then we sort of built up. The second season we had 3, and that's how we've really sort of progressed.
And I think for those that follow the sport very closely, and especially that in the West Country, Barthwick Scano has created his own sort of little legend, as it were, and he contributes in no small part to the success here at Culverwells. Last season, Teresa, an excellent season. You were the leading small string trainer in the Wessex area. 9 successes throughout the year. Barthwick Scano himself contributing to a third of those victories. But what did that mean to you, to have won that accolade of being the leading small string trainer? I mean, for yourself, with a relatively small string, as the title would suggest, I mean, it must be a huge win to have achieved that.
It was absolutely fantastic, and what I take pride in is that none of my horses, they are what I joke, bargain basement horses. And that's what I felt was a great achievement, to actually get the 9 winners with horses that we haven't spent a fortune on. And so it was just amazing to achieve that.
Well, it was a great achievement. Nevertheless, this season